Okay, I'm gonna make a shorter video, just focusing on one garden bed. It is July 18th. So this is my front garden bed. There's some things I want to move around, and I'm just kind of making a record of what I had before. So this is a kaffir lily, also known as schizostylus, and it blooms. This is its first bloom, and it'll bloom for the rest of the year through fall time. We have a stilby back here. The blooms are almost spent, and they won't rebloom, but they are ornamental in their dried state, so I keep them for a bit. We have penstemon here. It's a husker here, and back here it's Husker's Red. It's not reblooming. It just blooms in spring, and then I usually cut it back. I haven't cut it back yet because I'm going to propagate from cuttings. We have Morris Stilby. It's just a different variety, and I'm actually going to phase some of these out for the more floppy kind. Here we have spiderwort, and I just moved it, so that's kind of why it looks the way that it does. It usually gets to be much taller, and it was taller. I just had to cut it back a bit. We have lobelia, which is also known as cardinal flower here. And then I have a calla lily with a tigridia, or tigridia. I have to look up the pronunciation on that one. We have a heavenly bamboo. The heavenly bamboo is about 4 years old, and I've never moved that one, so it's gotten quite big in the 4 years. I have a bunch of them throughout the yard that I bought in 2016. I should say it's actually been in my yard for 4 years. It's probably 5 to 6 years old, because that's how old they are when you buy them in the pots. So this one is just gorgeous this time of year. It's Ligularia, with these dark lily pad type leaves and these beautiful yellow flowers. It plays very nicely, as you can tell, with the valerian that's growing behind it. And with the valerian we have Lavatara. This is Barnsley's baby, and if you look very closely in there, it's like a pink in the middle there by the stamen, and then it comes out to white. Behind this we have a dahlia, and then we have weigela, and they've already bloomed. You can see the blooms in the spring because all of these perennials haven't come up yet, so it's okay that it's short and hanging back there, because most of this isn't here when it's in bloom, and it just kind of sits there with its bronze leaves for the rest of the year. I've got an oriental lily here that I'll be moving because it's not the right spot for it. It doesn't kind of fit with the whole motif. I have more oriental lilies that are in here that I'm also going to have to move because they're getting crowded out and not getting tall because they're not getting sun, and they're too pretty to just see. You can see another one hiding back there. They're too pretty to just hide there and to never be able to see them, so I'll be moving those. So this is Crocosmia. It's not quite in bloom yet. You can see that it's starting to bloom, and they get gorgeous. The hummingbirds love them, and bees and everything else. Daylily and I used to not be friends, and I've generally come to accept them as just very reliable sources of color that just go all year. So I've added them to most of my beds. We've got another Ligularia. I only bought one plant, but I propagated and split it into 3 different plants after it had established for a few years. So we have gooseneck loosestrife in the back there, and another weigela. That's Cape fuchsia hanging out, it gets nice and tall. I put a red grass in there because as I cut some things back in the fall, it'll fill that space. There's some snapdragon hiding in there. It hasn't bloomed yet, and a stilby, which will be coming out of this area for next year. We've got purple hyssop, Augustance, if I said that right, probably not. Coneflower, it's very pretty. I like this color there. And this is going to be a pale yellow to play off of the burgundies around it. Penstemon, I have 5 or 6 different varieties throughout my gardens. We have blanket flower. It's laying down like a blanket. I just gave it a lot of water because I don't know why it's not blooming yet, and it really should be. So these are calla lily leaves, and I mean, they're just so cool. Look at that. And a beautiful orange calla lily to go with it. I planted from bulb last year. And we've got more lobelia. That one I know for a fact is bright pink, and I will be sure to get pictures and video when it's in bloom. I have a Peruvian lily that was gifted to me that is orange and yellow. I just planted it this year, so it probably won't bloom till next year. I moved some of this pink hyssop to play with the purple one, and it's a very cool color pink. This is purple penstemon. I just deadheaded it, so it'll rebloom soon. We've got some more daylily here. This is Digiplexus, which is like a foxglove, but it'll rebloom a bunch once it goes. It will be an August bloomer through the first frost. We've got more heavenly bamboo. That was planted last year, so it's much smaller. We've got Stockies Humelo, Masterwort right here. It gets really deep burgundy flowers. That one I planted last year. It hasn't bloomed this year, but I expect that it will in a little bit. And then that's tickseed and lavender phlox. My dwarf lilac bloomed in spring, of course. Penstemon, which will also be cut back. And that's guara. Got a perennial mallow bush. And then the sourwood tree and my lilies. So I'll be moving those pink lilies to the other side of the rhododendron here to fill in this gap that you can see right here, because that's where I like the lilies. So we have a weigela up here, which is a perennial. I'm ignoring the annuals. And then more Stockies Humelo. Electric blue penstemon. And then a dark leaf dahlia in front of a red salvia. And that red salvia just, it does a lot of heavy lifting for the look of this garden. This is hand back, and that's the perennial portion of my front garden bed.